layer are displayed as a very small picture in the front of. This is called thumbnail of the layer. If you open an existing JPG image, it will have only one layer called background layer. After that, we can add different images to this background layer. Now what it do, it allow the user to work conveniently with the layers. It allow you to add new layer, change the order of the layers if you have more than 2 layers, delete the existing layer, hide or view the particular layer. The layer palette can be viewed by clicking the option Windows layer. Now this is called thumbnail of the layer. If you open an existing JPG image, it will have only one layer, which is called as the background layer. You can increase the size of the thumbnails by selecting the palette option after right click on the palette. We can create a new image with the white background or a colored background. The bottommost image in the layer palette is called as the background layer. An image can have only one background. You cannot change the stacking order of the background, its blending mode or its opacity. However, you can convert a background to a regular layer. When you create a new image with a white background or a colored background, the bottommost image in the layer is background. An image can have only one background. You cannot change the stacking order of the background, its blending mode or its opacity. However, you can convert a background to the regular layer. When you create a new image with transparent content, the image does not have a background layer. The bottommost layer is not constrained like the background layer. You can move it anywhere in the layers palette and change its opacity and blending mode. When you create a new image with transparent content, the image does not have a background layer. The bottommost layer is not constrained like the background layer. You can move it anywhere in the layer palettes and change its opacity and the blending mode. We can add layers after any existing layer or at the uppermost position. Lower sets offer an easy way to logically group various similar layers and to apply effect on them as whole. When we can add layers after one existing layer or at the uppermost position, layer sets offer an easy way to logically group various similar layers and to apply effects on them as whole. Now following are the steps to add a new layer. New layer bottom button at the bottom of the layer palette. You can also select the option of a layer in a new layer. Use Ctrl key while you click the button on the new layer to add the new layer after the current layer. The presence of paintbrush icon represents the current layer. It is important that a presence of a paintbrush icon represent the current layer. The active layer only the active layer receives the inputs. Let's create a group of imaging by copying imaging portions from the various images into the single image. Open any file contain a background with flowers. Now another file which contain a picture of a butterfly. Now select butterfly from the second file and copy it by pressing Ctrl+C key from the keyboard or edit copy option. and close a second file. Paste the content on the first file, a new layer will be automatically created. Now in another example, take the picture of a mountain as a background and take the another picture of a man in a standing position. After that, carefully select the picture of a man from the second file and copy it by pressing Ctrl+C key from the keyboard and edit copy option. Now close the second file. After that, paste that picture of a man in the new layer. A new layer will be automatically created. Now you can reduce the size of object on this layer by selecting the content and choosing the option of edit transform scale and reducing or enlarging to the required level. Now if I have reduced the size of the butterfly, notice that the background layer is not visible. Make the background layer visible by clicking on the place of eye. Now move the butterfly to the required position. Again copy the image of a butterfly and paste it. A new layer will be inserted. I have repeated the process for 4 times to create our butterflies on that flower. Now viewing and hiding layers. Photoshop allow you to hide all the other layers of the image when you are working on a particular part of the image. Just click on the eye near to the thumbnail of the layer to hide a layer. If you again want to see the layer, click the same position again. Removing layers. When you remove the layer through a number of options, you can right click on the layer and select the option of delete layer from the pop-up menu. You can also click the layer and drag it to the trash icon at the bottom of the layers. The other option is to select delete layer from the layer menu. Recording layers. You can change the order of the layer in the image. Do remember that the background layer will be there at the bottom only. To change the position of a particular layer and drag the thumbnail of a layer and release it at the specified position. Again, fourth is we have rename the layer. Like other options, renaming can also be done in the number of ways in the Photoshop. You can double click the name of the layer in the layer palette and type the new name. The other method is to right click on the layer and select the option of layer properties and specify the name of the layer in the dialog box that appears. A layer is opacity means how much is visible behind the layer, how much opaque it is, to what degree it obscures or reveals the layer beneath it. The layer with 1% opacity appears nearly transparent, while one with 100% opacity appears completely opaque. Now enter the value in the opacity value box and drag that slider to the desired position. Next, setting fill opacity. In addition to setting opacity for the layer which affect any layer styles and blending modes applied to the layer, you can specify a fill opacity of a layer by fill opacity effect pixel painted in the layer or a shape drawn on the layer. Photoshop offers various layer effects and styles to be applied on the layers. we can select our style from the variety of options, and we can also create our own style from the scratch. The layer effects are related with the contents of the layers, and they are changed when the contents are changed. Now apply the ready-made styles. Photoshop allow you to apply ready-made styles to the layers. To apply ready-made style to layer, follow these steps. Select from the window menu, select the option styles and click off on any style. It will be applied on the current layer. For example, I have simply created a new file with the background and a pasted butterfly on the first layer. Now you can create custom style using one or more of the following effects. Drop shadow. This effect will add a shadow to the that fell behind the content on the layer. The shadow may be inner shadow. This effect will add shadow that falls just inside the edges of the layer's content to give it to a blurred appearance. Outer glow and an inner glow. These effects will add glow that originate from the outside or inside edges of the layer's content. Bevel or emboss. These effects will add various combination of highlights and shadows to the layer. The fifth one is the satin. This applies shading to the interior of the layer that reacts to the shape of the layer, typically creating a satiny finish. Sixth, the color gradient and a pattern overlay, which fills the layer content with a color gradient or some pattern. Seventh one is stroke. Outlines the object of the current layer using color, a gradient or a pattern. It is particularly useful on a hard edged shapes such as type. All these effects can be applied either from the style button of the layer palette or from layer style menu. Now dropping shadows. The drop shadow effect will apply a shadow effect to the content of the current layer. You can change the angle, distance between size and quality of the shadow. To apply this effect to the layer, select the drop shadow from the list of style. This style list can be taken from a menu from layer palette. Select the blending mode, select the opacity of the shadow. More the value, darker will be the shadow. Now select the angle of light from the shadow. Click and drag the clock hand to change the angle. Drag the distance slider to the specify the distance of shadow from the object or the layer. Select the spreading of the shadow. More is the value, more area will be covered by the shadow. Select the size of shadow, more is the value and bigger will be the shadow. Click OK to apply the changes that you have make in your image. Now next is the filters. Working with the filters. Photoshop has got many filters that can change the appearance of image from one to another type. The filters provide a ready-made functionality and offer a set of commands to customize the settings. Filters are inbuilt into the Photoshop and they can also be installed from the third-party softwares or vendors. If you are using non-Adobe filters, they will have to be installed on Photoshop. Filters can produce wonderful effects on the image. Some can turn the image into one looking like a painted image with a watercolor or with the oil color. It may be look like a chalk or a charcoal. Other may produce sharp or a blur effect on that image, and other may produce effect like distortion, glass, pinch, shear or a zigzag. This section discusses the use of various filters to produce various effects. The filters are present in the filter menu of Photoshop. Before explaining the filters, following point must be understood. First is the last filter chosen appear at the top of the menu. Filters are applied to the active visible layers. Filter cannot be applied to bitmap mode or indexed color images. Some filters only work on RGB images. Some filters are processed entirely in RAM. If you are trying filters, try them on a smaller images. Prefer the viewing